house, and if any Indian tries to stop me, I'll blast him.
You know, the only thing more pathetic than Indians on TV is Indians watching Indians on TV.
Hey everybody, what's going on? It's Ian, back again for another episode of Native Film Talk. How's it going? How's everybody doing? Today's episode will be 2019 Blood Quantum, directed by Jeff Barnaby. Let's get into it. This movie was... this movie... I love this movie. Just first and foremost, this movie was awesome. It was badass. There's going to be profanity in here because I'm going to quote the movie, but also I'm just really going to get excited because I really enjoyed this movie. I didn't know anything about Jeff Barnaby. He's he's Canadian native. He's Mi'kmaq. I really don't know what's right. I heard him say Mi'kmaq, so I'm going to go with that because I think that's appropriate. I heard him and the other actors say that. But he was real intentional about this. He wanted to do a zombie movie for a while. He's directed some other work for, this isn't like his first time. Like he's been around the industry for a while, but this was like 12 years in the making. He came up with this idea roughly like 12 years ago, prior to the movie coming out. But the market's like saturated with zombie films, so he's like, I gotta come up with something original. So he did. So he decided to come up with an idea. The premise is Native people are immune to the virus. They can get bit. They can get cut by nails or whatever, but they're immune. It happens to other non-native people, and they get infected and they turn. And so when you hear that plot, you're just like, ooh, that's a thing? You can do that? Like, that's a great idea. And so as he built out the story and everything, it became like a political film and really a message about, colonialism and all that good stuff that I'll talk about a little bit later. But it's just, man, this is a great movie. You got to see it. So up to this point, why I was excited when I saw the trailer, one of the listeners of the podcast told me about this. So shout out to Rokandar. He went and told me, to Jay, he's like, hey, there's this movie out there called Blood Quantum. You should check it out. And I'm like, what the heck's that about? I don't subscribe to Shudder, so I didn't know about the movies that were offered on Shudder, and this came out on that platform. So when he told me about it, I watched the trailer and I was just like, holy crap, a native zombie movie? You can do that? Because up to this point, the only native zombie representation was like in Zombieland, when the cast is like going across the country to try to get to the West Coast, and then they find like an old arts and crafts souvenir shop and they trash it. And that was such a like random scene in the movie, but I'll probably do that as a future episode too. There's representation there. It was real random, but there's a reason why they chose that. But back to this movie, I'll give a little bit of quick details about the movie, quick overview of it, and then I'll go into the cast review as usual, and then plot. I'll go over the plot, try to go over it, and hit on the high points that I thought were pretty important, and then positives, negatives, and then final thoughts. Let's get into it. So this movie was shot in Canada, like Mohawk, Mi'kmaq territory in Quebec. So he got a lot of influence from, I'm going to butcher this name, so I apologize, from a director named Alanis Obomsawin, but she directed 270 Years of Resistance and Incident at Restigouche. And he drew a lot of inspiration from her as a director, but also just the timing of everything at the time. So this is set in 1981, and there was a lot of issues with the government and salmon rights fishing, and these two towns that are connected on the bridge that's going over the Restigouche River. So there's a lot going on here that, frankly, that's like a history podcast. That's a history lesson. But this guy, like, he was really influenced by a lot of people, and he tried to incorporate that into this film, and I really appreciated that. Mi'kmaq. I can't even, thanks a lot, Hollywood. I can't even know what's right. I'm such a Navajo, too. We're so self-absorbed sometimes. We can't even say other native nations right. But anyway, so this movie, one thing that I appreciated the most about this movie, runtime less than 100 minutes. Respect. In today's industry, you don't see that anymore. 97 minutes. Just get in, get out, tell your story, boom. So let's go over the cast. Michael Greyeyes as Trailer. He's Canadian Cree. He's the sheriff of the police force in the movie. He's like a bad father, bad husband that eventually like finds his way in the apocalypse. He's you most famously known outside of this movie from Dance Me Outside. He's in Smoke Signals, The New World, Jimmy P, and Togo. What was interesting when watching the interviews leading up to this movie from like TIFF, the Toronto International Film Festival in 2019, he was talking about an interesting, it's not a phenomenon, but just like a trend in Hollywood where as a native, he's visibly native. You know, he rocks his braids, he's got the long hair, and he gets cast as such in post-apocalyptic movies. And for some reason, he said he has an easier time getting cast in those movies than regular movies, because the trope that's out there right now that's like sexy and cool, I guess, with all the zombie apocalypse like movies that's like trending right now and television, is natives are there at the end of it. Whereas like in the regular world, pre-apocalypse, when it's not dystopian, when everything's just regular life, like we're invisible, we're not present in movies, we're not represented, but as soon as it hits the fan and the world is ending, all of a sudden our connection to the land, our spiritualism, our ability to revert back to our primal roots, you know, all of a sudden gives us an upper leg on the competition, and we're able to survive, which, you know, is a stereotype in itself. I mean, you're romanticizing a lot of things about us to be able to get to that point, but I thought that was an interesting observation that I never considered, and I really appreciated that from him. And I'm going to butcher this name too, but Ella May Tailfeather. She plays Joss. She's Blackfoot from Nova Scotia. Most of her career was like writing, directing up to this point. I haven't really seen any of her other work, but she was great in this one. She was the mother to Joseph, who was played by Forrest Goodluck. And Forrest is like Dinesh Mandan Hidatsa. He was in The Revenant, Indian Horse, Miseducation of Cameron Post, and now this. And man, this guy, he's gonna be like he's gonna be a superstar someday. Kiowa Gordon, he played Lysol, aka Alan. And man, he's a shout out to Kiowa Gordon from Arizona. He's Wallapai. He was most notably in the Wolfpack from the Twilight movies, and he was just a force. Like there's a lot. He has so much depth in such a like very few dialogue. There's just so much power with everything that he says. He's a force. He's exactly how I would be, frankly. If I were to like, if we joke about if it were ever hit the fan with all these zombie movies out now, we all play this. If a zombie outbreak were to happen now, what would you do? Immediately, I'm like, well, I go back to my res, go back home. That's where all my family is. And we would just block it off and prevent anyone from coming in. And, you know, because eventually the cities would get overrun and come back. And I would be like, Lysol, I'd be like, fuck everybody. Like, don't let anybody in. It's like, they're not from this community. We don't know who they are. Don't let them in. Don't let them in. And so I really like that. And for a number of reasons, he is like that. He is treated as an outcast in this film because, I mean, one, he's like the bad son of Trailer's offspring. So there's Trailer and Joseph. They're half brothers in this film. I'm sorry, Lysol and Joseph. They're half brothers in this film, but Joseph's definitely like the good son, kind of going awry, and Lysol's just like the town, you know, screw up. Basically, it seems like, oh, you're back again, kind of thing. Like when he goes to jail. So, yeah, his character is pretty awesome. Olivia Scriven is Charlie. So she's the white girlfriend in this one. She's great. And then Stonehorse Lone Goman as Gisigu. Oh my gosh, which I guess he said it translates to old man in Mi'kmaq. I don't know about this guy. Like this is like his debut acting role. This guy is a badass. He is an MMA trainer, I guess, like by trade. He speaks his language in the film. He's like just as badass as he is in the movie. He's more badass on the red carpet. When I watched the interview, he showed up on the red carpet in chains. He had a tank top on, and he's showing off all his tattoos he has. And he's more badass than his character, which is hard to believe because he's such a freaking force in the movie. He's Magua-like, so I'm going to give him that tag. And then Brandon Oaks, Bumper, another one. He might be my favorite character of this decade. He is just a badass. Like, he's Magua-like as well, but throughout the whole movie, why I liked him, doesn't speak a lick of English. Doesn't speak one word of English. He never utters an English word in the entire movie. Like, no one ever questions it, too. That's the best part about this movie. There's one scene where one white guy's like, will you guys speak English? And everyone's just like, come on, bro. Like, are you serious? Like, and no one's like, oh, we have to appease to their power. Or, oh, I'm sorry, we need to translate to you. They're just like, just get inside. We gotta freaking kill your lady. But Bumper was just a cool, like, strong, silent force. And gosh, I loved his character. And it's what's funny is this guy Brandon Oaks, he sounds like such a sweetheart in the interviews. You know, like the other guy Stonehorse, he was like, Lone Goman was intense. Like when you hear him talk, like he's an MMA trainer. This guy's intense. And then you hear Brandon Oaks talk like in real life, you're just like, oh man, he's like not anything like his character. And he killed it. He did great. And then we have a few other characters, you know, most notably Gary Farmer, who plays Moon, and he's just great. I don't know if this is a good thing to be, if it's something to be proud of, but Gary Farmer just plays a good beer drinking Indian. Like he's just good at that role, you know. Skins, smoke signals, now this. He gives depth to just a character that he has like basically almost no dialogue, and when he does speak, it's so profound, and you know he just Gary Farmer, man, just killing it as usual. All right, let's get into the plot. So the movie opens up with a proverb that's kind of difficult to read. It's like red lettering on a black screen. And frankly, I don't know if this is intentional, but I had to turn off all the lights to be able to read it. If that was a, hey, you really got to focus and turn off the lights to be able to read this, good job. It says, take heed to thyself that thou make no treaty with the inhabitants of the land, whither thou goest, lest it be cause of ruin among you. Break down their altars, smash their sacred stones, and burn down their graves. And then it flashes again to take heed to thyself that thou make no treaty with the inhabitants of the land. For when they whore themselves to their demons and sacrifice to them, you will eat their sacrifices. And when you choose some of their daughters for your sons, they will lead your sons to do the same. And it says it's an ancient settler proverb. I thought that was a pretty cool way to open it. All right, then it flashes to Red Crow Reservation, 1981. Opens with Gisigu fishing. Badass grandpa just pulling salmon on his boat. Another day, another dollar. He pulls up to what it looks like a smokehouse fishing shed where like the movie ends also, which is cool. But once he's on shore, he gets to gutting them. And then this is where the outbreak starts to, you get like rumblings of an outbreak because the salmon are twitching and convulsing even though he gutted the fish. And they do a great job of making the sound effects for gutting a fish. And all the fish are just like jumping around despite they're all gutted, and all of a sudden just cuts to an animated chapter break, which are pretty cool. I really like those animated chapter breaks. So you introduce, after that, you get to Michael Grey Eyes, his character, Trailer. He ends up going to Gary Farmer's house, Moon, because his dog got sick. And so so Michael Grey Eyes has to kill it. You know, Trailer's got to shoot it. And then he says, oh, Gary Farmer's like, what I wouldn't do to shoot my ex's dog. And Trailer's like, have you met my ex? And then immediately we're introduced to Joss. And Joss is like my favorite thing about this movie, like this far in. The native women are real native women. Like Joss is a competent woman. She don't need no man. She's chopping wood, maintaining a homestead. There's a barn with like mounted moose and elk horns mounted on the house on the side. She's a nurse. She's a single mom. Like she's just getting after it. She's holding it down, which is like so true. Like tell that story of native women. There's no squaw here. There's none of that BS. Like she just kills it. So Trailer comes over to just come see her, and they find out, they eventually say like, hey, Joseph, our son, Forrest, good luck. He got picked up by the police, so we got to go pick him up later. And we eventually find out he shit on a car on the bridge that separated the white and the native town. And then he got tossed in with Lysol. Well, not with Lysol, but Lysol ended up there also. But then, as Trailer leaves, he's like, I'll pick up our son later, whatever, you know, let him sleep it off or whatever reason he's there. So he gets a call from the dispatcher, and Doris is like, hey, you got to go see your dad. You know, she starts explaining all these weird things going on in town, but the last thing she says is like, oh, by the way, your dad called, you better go see him. And then that's where we go and find out that Trailer's dad is Gisigu, the fisherman in the boat. And it pulls up to this. I love it. It's a pawn shop, but I love how res this is. It's like a shop made out of the Connex boxes, and then eventually you assume that's where they turn into their fortress, but I thought that was freaking cool. And then Gisigu shows them like, hey, all these fish I gutted, they're still alive. I've fished these rivers for 60 years. I've never seen anything like that. And you learn also that Gisigu's a veteran of World War II, and he's just you're framing this picture that he's a badass. And Trailer, what we learned when he shot Gary Farmer, Moon's dog, he chucked it in his trunk. And so they walk outside with these fish, and they hear that dog in the trunk going crazy, like, what the hell? I thought I shot that thing. They pop the trunk open, shoot the dog, and then they're like, okay, something's really wrong. We got fish with, like, no guts, hopping all over the place. We got this dog here that came back to life, seemingly. And then we flash to the jail, where Lysol and Joseph, Kiowa Gordon and Forrest Goodluck are in the jail, and you learn that they're stepbrothers, and Kiowa's mom is dead, but obviously their common thread is Trailer. So they eventually find out that the guy that they're also in the cell with is starting to turns into a zombie. This great scene ensues where basically he starts throwing up, turns in the cell. Joseph actually gets bit. He actually gets bit. So Joseph, Forrest Goodluck's character, he gets bit. And so they haven't revealed that the natives are immune yet. And so this is like, oh God, what's going to happen? But eventually they make it out of the jail, and he's on his way to the hospital for himself to get a tetanus shot. But also you learn that Joseph has a white girlfriend who is pregnant, and they're thinking about getting the abortion. But then they decide not to, and they bounce. So flash to Trailer, back to Trailer. Later on that day, he goes to a house where there's a native, another situation where there's a native with a non-native, and the non-native lady's like pregnant, and he responding like, it sounds like domestic violence. But then he gets there, and the native guy's all drunk. He's all like on multiple substances. He's just like trying to explain, like, there's a baby, she had the baby, she's eating it, I don't know. And he's like, bro, you're messed up. Like, get out of my way. Let me get in there. Let me help. He goes upstairs. This like white lady turned, ate her baby. This crazy scene. And it was freaking awesome. And then they eventually, he eventually beats her to death with the butt of her shotgun. So, and then Trailer's just like, all right. And the guy would come to find out his name is Shooker. Come on, Shooker, get in. Get in. I don't know what happened to your wife. I don't know what happened to your baby, but just get in. Let's get the hell out of here. They take off. And while crossing the bridge they find an ambulance. And then there's Joseph. Joseph's in the freaking ambulance. And Joss is in the ambulance too. She's nearby. And they have this epic scene where basically the ambulance driver jumps on Trailer, and it looks like Trailer's about to get bit. It looks like Trailer is about to meet his demise, and enter Bumper with a freaking chainsaw. Brandon Oaks comes in and just and saws right through the skull of this zombie, and all this blood gushes out all over Trailer, and it's awesome. It's a great scene. That scene was so metal. And Bumper and Gisigu are talking Mi'kmaq to each other. They're standing over a fire, just chatting, casual. No explanation, not romanticized, just casually chatting. Like, hey, this is what's happening. What the hell's going on? And I love that. I love how casual the native language is in this. Like, it's exactly how it would happen. Like, when you bounce between English and your native language, like this, it was so clean. It was so flawless. And in 1981, when you were closer removed from like the boarding school experience, like the native language was more abundant back then. Flash forward to 40 years later where we are right now, it's less common. So in the 1981, pre-cell phone, pre-internet, like this is the world we occupy as natives, when they're on this, reserve, and I thought it was great. So flash is 6 months later, city's in shambles. You find out the white town is like just a mess across the bridge. You go to the other side of the bridge, native town, they're holding it down. They're not scared of zombies. They know how to fight them. It's clear they have a system that's worked out. And this is one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie, if not the favorite scene. They have like this kind of like moat system where it's like, lower the gate. Let's see if they're good or not. And so Lysol is up front. He's like, who the hell is that? And so we got these white people coming thinking that the natives have the cure to the virus. And so his pregnant wife has bit. She's bit. She comes like holding her in a blanket. She's like, she's sick. She's like, sick. What's going on? Places her down. And all of a sudden you see that like, no, these people aren't sick. These people are immune. And I love this because this is... You have 3 white people coming in to seek refuge with the natives. And they're all bit, but they're lying. Well, 2 of them are bit. The ladies in the group are bit, and they're lying. And the lady coming with a blanket, you see the bite visibly on her neck. And she's wrapped with this big blanket. And the significance of blankets with Native American history, I freaking love this. The hindsight being 2020. If we knew way back then the importance and significance and power of those blankets of like passing the disease over to us, I love it because in the movie when they finally let the white guy in and after they kill his wife because she's about to turn, one of the characters is just like, are you fucking crazy? You can't bring that in here. Burn it immediately. She rips the blanket with the blood on it out of her hands and chucks it in a burning, dumpster. And I was just like, God, I love that. Thank you. Because in the past, in our history, that was a silent killer. It's like passing them off blankets to stay warm, but you're killing them. You're passing off something they don't have immunity to. Definitely not going to do that again. And man, I rewound it. I moved back and I watched it like 4 or 5 times. I'm just like, am I seeing that right? Is that what they really wanted me to see? And God, I just love that scene. Thank you so much for doing that. Okay, so this scene also sets up Lysol versus everybody else. Lysol, he only wants natives there. He's like, we're bringing in these white people after we vet them. We're bringing in these non-natives. Yeah, good for you guys, but this is all going to come to a halt. This is going to boil over. This is going to be a problem. So there's a handful of natives in this. You're led to believe there's probably about 8 or 9 actual natives that are in here that are immune to the virus. But everyone else is non-native. They're bringing in to help out and just be extra mouths to feed and just be a good Samaritan and just help people out that are coming for refuge. And so the white husband they let in, he eventually kills himself. And so Lysol was right. The white guy they let in, after he saw his wife and unborn child get shot and dead, it wasn't even shot. He took an axe to the head. And he's just like, yeah, I'm safe now, but what do I have left to live for? He kills himself in the bathroom. And then he turns in the freaking compound. Exactly what Lysol said would happen. So Trailer's got to go freaking kill him, basically. Kill him. And then you find out this awesome scene. Trailer got bit, basically. And he takes off his shirt, goes to the nurse, his ex-wife, Joss. And you see all the bite marks all over his body. And you can see that he's just 6 months in. He is visibly beaten up and physically scarred from these zombies. And they bite, they claw, and it really shows how susceptible you are to being hit. But if you're immune from the virus, they're just bites. You still got to treat it. You still don't want an infection, but you're not going to turn. And I thought that was a really subtle way to explain, like, hey, just because they're immune doesn't mean they're impervious. Like, these people still are fighting like undead. All right, so we learned that the water's dirty. The next scene, we learned that the world they live in, they need mountain water. They got moose and deer that are unaffected, but anything that comes out of the river is infected. So if the water's infected, the meat's infected, the salmon. So we just gotta. So then they're plotting like down the road in the winter. When winter hits, we gotta head out, get more water from the mountain, start hunting moose and deer, and then we'll be good. And at that point, they flash to Joseph and his white girlfriend. They're kind of having this discussion of like, I'm white, you're native, our baby's gonna be half native, half white. Is it gonna eat me from the inside? Is it gonna be immune to the virus? They don't know. So that's interesting because you get to the end of the movie, that's significant. You get to the what if scenario. It goes back to Lysol again. He's just like, I don't know why we're freaking letting these people in. This is so stupid. There's like 100 of them, a handful of us. We're screwed if something happened. We're fucked. And everyone's trying to reassure him. It's fine. We're doing the right thing. But Lysol's like, nah, man, like this is stupid. And he eventually just bounces. Let's go fucking party, basically. And it's party time in the fortress. So everyone's like hanging out, partying, and Lysol goes and blows off some steam, and this is a native party. Like, I love it. It doesn't feel like it's a middle of a zombie apocalypse. They're just hanging out, partying, and so there were 3 white people they let in that day. One of which they shot. One of which they took an axe to the head. The other guy, he killed himself, and they had to kill him. And then there was one other woman that apparently Lysol had previous relations with. He eventually, you come to find out that they had hooked up in the past, and it was real. This is man, I don't know how I feel about this scene, but so Lysol's talking. He's very in detail talking about going down on this, performing like cunnilingus on this girl, and he talks about this like gushing scene where basically she has her period, and it's a very like interesting scene that gets turned on itself because that's that like toxic male thing where we just openly talk about our sexual acts about other women to other men and like boast about it and talk about it like it's a thing of pride. And there's a lot of things that get flipped on its head in this one, but most notably he's like, screw it, I'm gonna go hit her on her again. I'm gonna go. I didn't tap that well dry. I could still go back, and so he does. He goes back, but that lady that he goes to, she's been bit, and she hid it. She hides it. Nobody knows that she's bit. And the next scene is gruesome. You can tell that she might have turned while she was going down on him, and she bites his penis off. And for his good luck, Joseph walks into the room. She is holding the man's penis in his in her hand and eats it. And he's just like, "Don't let her eat me, man." I'm just like, oh my gosh. When I saw that, I was like, what the fuck? But I digress. Sorry. But there's one great quote before I move on from this party. From Moon, Gary Farmer's character, about why this is all happening. He's like, the earth is an animal, and she's sick of our shit. That's why the dead keep coming back. Not because of God, because this planet we're on is so sick of our shit. This old, tired, angry animal turned these stupid fucking white men into something she can use again. Fertilizer. And it's basically, to like, hey, this zombie apocalypse isn't for nothing. We put ourselves in this situation because of the mistreatment of our land, and you kind of get the sense that with this story that's why they made the natives immune, because we didn't do that. We're not the ones that did that. So while all this is going on, the other 3, the guys, the older guys, Gisigu, Michael Grey Eyes, Trailer, and Bumper, they all go off, and you're like, hey, those guys can have their fun. They can have their party. This is our kind of party. So they go and they try to go clear out a house. So they left the fortress. At this point, there's like nobody at the fortress, really, because all the guys who are immune and can put up a fight, they're all gone. And while they're gone, after, the next part of the movie, they really just show a lot of gore, show a lot of killing. It's pretty awesome, but I won't talk about that too much. So why that's important is the trio of warriors are away. Kiowa just got his penis bit off, and so he is vengeful. He's pissed. And so Kiowa's like, Lysol's like, screw this, man. We gotta freaking eradicate everybody. Because the lady that bit him obviously is turned. There's a white person that turned. He's like, we gotta get rid of all these people. 100 of them. 100 of them and just a few of us, screw it. He just so they capture that lady. Instead of killing her, the one that ate his penis, throws her in the trunk of a car and lets her loose in the village. And she just goes crazy. But before that happens, Joseph, he's like trying to talk some sense into Lysol, like, you don't gotta do this. You don't gotta do this, man. We're family, we'll take care of you. We'll take you down to the basement. We'll get you taken care of. And he's just like, I got no family, and just stabs Joseph right in the stomach. And he's just like, I gotta do this. We gotta freaking take care of these people. This is a virus we gotta take care of. So it's pretty cool. Pretty cool scene. So this is where the all hell breaks loose part of the story happens. She goes in and just starts turning everybody. Bites somebody, and then one turns into 2, and then it just multiplies from there. And so eventually Joss, she's the nurse. She's still down there. She's still tending to the needy, and she has a radio, and she calls Trailer, and it's like, hey, while you guys were gone, like, shit went down. You need to get in here and save us. I'm in here with Joseph. He's hurt. You need to come in here and take care of this. And so a long fight ensues. And basically they start to split up. So like Bumper is used as a diversion to get most of them out of the compound. He takes off in a decoy vehicle, and Gisagu and Trailer go after them. And then during the fight, most of the camp turns into zombies. The camp's overrun. Trailer eventually gets killed, and this is a big thing because when he dies, he speaks in his native language. But most importantly, he gets ripped. He dies saving everyone else. He's like, I need to die to, one, give Joseph and Joss a chance to live. Because Bumper just pulls up just in perfect time in the decoy vehicle. He's like, get in, and Trailer realizes like, hey, I can be a good husband. I can be a good dad for once in my life. This apocalypse has given me the ability to save my family. So his son, Joseph, and his ex-wife, Joss, he's just like, go, go, go. And they take off. And, well, maybe not ex-wife. I think they're just ex-girlfriend. But yeah, he's like, go, go, go. Just get out of here. And so he gets ripped to shreds. This gruesome intestines pulling out, blood gushing out of his neck scene. It's pretty awesome. So, the next scene after that is... Okay, I remember. So Doris, at this point, tells the people in the police car. So at this point, it's just Joss, Joseph, Gisagu, and Bumper left. And they tell him, like, hey, Lysol's going crazy. He's just killing all the other white people that are left. You need to get over here and help us. And flash to Catholic church. Moon is like splashing gasoline on these people. And he's like, I'm going to set these people on fire. And Moon is just like singing Lysol's praises of like, hey, he's a great warrior. He's doing the right thing. This is what needs to happen. You people are leeches. You're just feeding off of us. We're going to die because of you. Eventually they get taken care of. They get killed. Or at least Gary Farmer gets killed with an epic sword to the side of the face. I mean, that was crazy. So then you get to near the end of the movie after that. Everyone's pretty much dead, everyone has turned, I should say, except for the natives. There's a handful of people left. Joss, the white girlfriend, and Joseph are kind of at the beginning of the movie where it started, at the salmon dock, at the shore. And she's real close to having this baby. And Bumper is just standing there like, what's going to happen? She's having major contractions, and Bumper is completely focused on her. And out of nowhere, Lysol makes his appearance, just stabs and kills Bumper. Well, he doesn't kill Bumper, but, fatally wounds him. He pretty unlikely he's going to make it, but stabs him right through the chest with a freaking sword, staff. And Joseph comes out, and and then at that point, Lysol's just like, fuck everybody. All of you guys want to help these people. There's one white person left. This, Joseph's lady, pregnant with his kid. We don't know what that situation's like. He's like ready to kill her, unleash it, pops open the trunk, tries to sick a zombie on her, and he does. Sicks a zombie on the white girlfriend, and Joseph gets there just in time to try to save her because he came from the church. He had just, taken care of some people at the church, and it was too late. It was too late, ultimately. She got bit. She didn't die, but at this point, they're just like, man, we're going to get overrun. And so this is like the rabid dog scene next. They, Gisagu and Joseph, they take Lysol to the cemetery, and they're just like, man, we get it. We get it. But we can't let you be here anymore. You're too much of a risk. So they cut him open, fire a gunshot, and they're like, have at it, people. And so Lysol goes out the same exact way Trailer did. Essentially, he didn't intend on saving them, but he created a diversion to allow the people to get away on the boats, along with Gisagu. But Trailer went out the same way as his other son, Lysol, did. And you go to the last scene. Everyone's like, all right, so now, it's done. We got to get out of Dodge. This town is done. This is our homeland, yes, but we got to get the F out. So they're running to the boats. They're running to the dock, running to the shore. They don't know what's happening. Freaking Shooker comes out of nowhere. And he's got a couple of boats. He's like, get in, let's go. And they're just like, where the hell you been? Thank God. And they all get in. So they take Bumper and Shooker. They get on one boat. And then the other boat is the white girlfriend. You got Joss and you got Joseph. They get in and they start taking off. And Gisigu stops with Joseph. And Joseph, he's just like, come on, Grandpa, what are you doing? Let's go, man. And Gisigu, he's just like, this is my homeland. I'm not going. You go ahead. It's not for me. This is like the best scene of the movie, in my opinion, because I mean, one, it's like it's a last stand trope, you know. I mean, but it's like Boromir in Fellowship of the Ring. It's just like they made it safe to the boats; they're gonna be fine. But he's just like, I'm going out like a G, man. Like this is last stand. I'm not, you know, I left my homeland before. I left it for the war. I'm not leaving this again. I fished these waters for 60 years. This is my homeland. If I'm gonna die anywhere, I'm gonna die where my ancestors live. I'm gonna die where my people are from. And I just love that because as he is like getting in position with his samurai sword and he's like ready to defend his position, you think like, oh, there's going to be some ominous music. No, my friend. Out of nowhere, Eastern Eagle Drum Group starts playing in the background. And don't be impressed, I had to look that one up. But just taking fools out, while blasting Eastern Eagle in the background. I'm not a native film historian. I'm not a film historian by any means, but this has got to be the first time a native drum group was playing during a Last Stand scene. This is like stuff of legend. That's like stuff you think of like when you're playing army men's and sticks in your backyard, you know, like that's the music that's playing in your head when you're doing all that stuff, you know, and it's just like, oh man. This is awesome because that music, it's like that drum represents like the heartbeat of the earth for some tribes, and like it just made sense to me. It just worked, you know. Respect to Barnaby. Jeez, man, that was freaking awesome. And the actor who played Gisigu about this scene, this last stand scene, he was just like, how many of us get to say this is where I'm gonna die? You know, where he, you know, I thought that was so cool. Like he's such a Gisigu, you know, his character was just awesome. You get the impression that he lives, you know, by the animated short afterwards, but he gets overrun, I think. I really don't know. I think it was just like the symbolism of like, hey, I did it my way. I drew my line in the sand. They didn't get to you guys. We're good. So then you cut to the last scene of the movie. Joss and Joseph and Charlie, the white girlfriend, delivers the baby, trying to calm her down. She ends up having a baby girl. Immediately, the mom recognizes she's a threat. She's like, great, the baby doesn't look like it's a walker, it's a zombie. We're good. Now get it away from me. I could turn any second. Eventually, it's just like this intense scene because you're like, you're just a new mom. You're a first-time mom. You just had your kid, but you can't touch it. You know that you're a danger to that thing. And so Charlie's like, you know, Joseph, you got to do it. Just take me out. I don't want to turn. I want to be a human in my last breaths. And so he shoots her. And it's like this insane scene. And the movie ends with them in a boat with Joseph like clutching to his baby mama, Charlie, just like, what am I going to do? I had to shoot my love. I had to shoot the person I love that just gave me the best thing of my life. And now the grandma, Joss, is just holding her grandchild. It's just like, what are we going to do? And the best thing of the movie, I did not see this coming. I love this. Fade to black. Mommy's Little Guy by Fawn Wood plays. If you don't know this song, play it again. This is like a great song to end the movie. A lot of people jam to this song when they have kids. When I had my son, you like hold your son and you listen to Mommy's Little Guy and bawl your eyes out. It's also like a remembrance song for people that have lost their kids. Like it's such and lost family members. It's such a multifaceted song that it has so many different emotions. And it's like you can view it as like Mother Earth saying to everyone, you'll always be my baby, even though I had to eradicate you from this earth, even though I had to unleash this song or unleash this virus on you guys. It's a song of hope for the new child that was just born, the half white child, the half native child that's immune from the virus. It's a song of hope overall. But if you don't know this song, you don't know like how it makes you feel. You don't listen to the words, like it's just a song, but you know, you have a native drum group and you got Fawn Wood, you know, Mommy's Little Guy. Like, oh man, this was great. I just like fanboy all like crazy because this is, I view this as a comforting song, as like this is a positive message ending the movie, because this is like a lullaby song of sorts. It's supposed to be comforting. It's supposed to tell you like, hey, things are okay. It's okay. It's going to be fine. The lyrics are, do you know I love you so, and mommy will never let you go. To the stars and to the sky, you'll always be mommy's little guy. But Fawn Wood just kills it when she sings it. So if you please listen to that song like now. And the movie ends on a positive note, in my opinion. And I was smiling ear to ear. I watched the entire credits because I was just jamming to that song. It's such a great freaking song. All right, so that's the end of the movie. Positives. Initially, the language. It is so refreshing to have native language spoken in movies, that you don't dumb things down in English. It's not toned down to appease the audience. In 1981, as I said, this is about like the abundance of native language and how much people spoke it back then. It's beautiful. You picked your spots to use it. Bumper is just the best character ever. I mean, he speaks only Mi'kmaq in this movie. He is just, gosh, I love his character. Never an English word out of his mouth. I love it. You think he's going to be the stoic Indian, but he just like speaks his own language, which is exactly why we didn't speak. People are like, oh, native people, you're so quiet. You guys don't talk. Why are you guys so quiet? Well, it's because we don't speak English. I digress. So, another positive I touched on, women are capable in this movie. Joss chops her own wood. She runs her own house. She takes care of everything. There's nothing that she needs to rely on a man for, and I love that about this. And she's the one that survives at the end. So when she's there in the boat with Joseph and her grandchild, you're like, thank God Joss is there. She's a nurse. She can take care of herself. She can build a fire. She can maintain a home. You don't have this feeling of like, oh no, what's she gonna do? I hope a man comes and saves her. I hope they meet up with a camp that has a bunch of men that can provide for that. Nah, son, Joss has got it. I love that. Jeff Barnaby, he's a responsible filmmaker. He knew what he was doing with the story and representation. And I quote from him, as a native filmmaker, what I try to do is not get enamored with being a filmmaker more than being a native person. That's what keeps me grounded. I try to represent where I'm from, specifically my reserve, my people, and the people that I grew up around, and having to answer to the community that keeps you honest. It doesn't become so much a chore to be the representative of all native people. I appreciate the hell out of that comment. He said that in response to this movie when making it in the LA Times interview. Because we get, as natives that are off their reservation, like in just regular society where we are truly the minority, we're the only one, we get asked to be the representative all the time. All the freaking time. And it's just like, hey, what did you think of Indigenous Peoples Day? What did you think of the happenings at, blah, blah, blah? And what do you think of this? What do you think of Thanksgiving? And it's just like, and then you get this feeling of like, whatever answer you give, that's the answer for all native people. And it's grossly unfair. You feel all this weight on your shoulders. You carry these questions around with you, and you give a response as like, you try to give a response to these questions, and it sits with you for years. Sometimes you're just like, gosh, I potentially framed that person's mindset about native people, about that issue, and that's just how I feel, And so I Jeff Barnaby, I love his movies. This is the first Jeff Barnaby movie I've ever seen. All his other ones I'm gonna watch like this weekend. I'm a huge fan right now. So negatives. This is Ian nitpicking partly. The sword was dope, but wasn't needed. You know what? After that left my mouth, I'm stupid. Of course it was needed. It's a zombie movie. What am I saying? Scrap that from the negatives. Never mind. So the first negative. A name like Lysol should be explained. There's so much depth that wasn't addressed. I mean, they call him Alan from time to time, but like, why was he named Lysol? I mean, yeah, it came out now in the time of the pandemic, and it's kind of like, ha ha, but really it was like written and made before that, before all this. Like Lysol is like in general, it kills 99.9% of all germs. Symbolic of like, hey, it kills all germs, the good and the bad, meaning the immune and the non-immune. It kills everybody. That's just what it does. Lysol just eradicates everything, eradicates all life, sterilizes everything. So I think it would have been cool to see it unpacked. I heard the actors, or at least the director, talk about like, hey, he had a fractured childhood. He has a dead mom. He's a half brother. He's got a estranged father. He grew up in DC. Why is he so angry? At least that's what other people say. Why is he so angry? But I knew why. I get it. It completely made sense to me. This is another negative, but I get it. The blood quantum system is unknown to many. It's a lot to unpack. Even the director, Jeff Barnaby, said this is like a freaking dissertation. You can't just explain it in one movie because it's relative. Blood quantum for Navajo people is different for Mi'kmaq, it's different for Canadians, it's different for Americans, it's different for every region, every tribe, and there's over 500 nations, and each of them has a different story to tell. So it would be ridiculous of me to even expect him to, peel back the layers, but I just think that for a zombie film that's going to get non-native audience members, like I feel like that should be peeled back to like just explain some of it, because I know the history. At least with my land and my people, so I get it. But ultimately, I think he went with the Kevin Smith route. He made the movie he wanted to see, which I love. I love it. As a native person, though, I don't care that he didn't explain it. I'm just thinking like from the representation standpoint of like everybody watching this movie. I feel like this movie is like for natives. Like natives watch this, they get it. There's no questions asked. You don't need to expand on anything. We get it. So this is a pseudo negative. This is really more of like a fan fiction addition I would like to make. I would have loved if somebody died. Like if you framed it at the beginning of the movie with this citizenship blood quantum issue, if by the standards imposed by colonial society, like, hey, you have to be at least a half, or the half has to come from your mom's side, or the half has to come from a source that we know, or whatever. You don't meet the blood quantum standards, and they have to like give you the stamp of disapproval and say, sorry, you're not an enrolled member, even though you grew up here, even though you live here. Sorry, you're not native enough. Your mom and dad were half, and you're not enough native. So by our standards, by the standards that are imposed on us, you're not native enough. And then the freaking outbreak hits. Who's native enough now, bitch? I would have loved to see that. Like the apocalypse strikes and boom, just like boom, a quarter, whatever, all these fractions, doesn't matter. I got native blood in me, son. Like that would have been a great twist. As for representation, I got none with this movie. I got no issues with this. So final thoughts. This is going to be a little bit, but what an awesome movie. As a zombie film, I'm going to be frank, it's just okay. Like standalone zombie film, when you hold them up against all of the zombie movies, it's okay. But as a like showcasing native talent, showcasing what we can do when we're behind the camera, holy crap. This is original. This is bold. Like someday when a native makes the equivalent of like Black Panther, like this movie's gonna be inspirational. This is gonna be the one of like Jeff Barnaby's Blood Quantum is my inspiration for making this movie. That's why this is the greatest, all-time grossing film of all time that showcases natives. Like this is gonna inspire people. I know for a fact. This movie is just great. And he, Jeff Barnaby, he was as a director, he understood Blood Quantum as a complicated issue. He said, so, and I quote from TIFF, an interview, a panel question he got in relation to Blood Quantum. It's not a short answer, even just explaining what it is. It's like a dissertation because every tribe has its definition. But basically, it's a caste system introduced by colonial society that introduced the concept of race to native people in an attempt to breed them out of existence. Basically, if you're a half-breed, you're no longer native. I.e., you're no longer legally obliged to honor your treaty rights to this half-breed person. So basically, through this whole movie, he turned that idea on its head, where natives have the power again. We have immunity to the plague. Everybody comes to us. And I love it. It's a symbol of the future. And I love that reservations, that's the, shithole lands of every nation. Typically, I should say, how it's viewed in terms of resources and desert, and barren lands. Like, that's the places that the colonial settlers didn't want to live. They were like, yeah, we'll give you that land because we don't want it anyway. And I just love how becomes the safe haven. Because we all had that moment of like, if a zombie outbreak were to happen, that's the first place I would go. I'd go straight home to the res. And we know that all the people from the nearby metropolitan areas would flock there because it's remote, it's rural, it's safe, it's not crowded. And we'd keep them out. At least I hope we would. So not since Chris Irish Smoke Signals have we seen this much autonomy given to a native filmmaker. I love it. We run this shit. Hats off to Shudder. Hats off to everybody involved in this film. Insane. There's no like participation input. It's like, we consulted with these people. We worked with this cultural consultant. We incorporated feedback from the cast during this film. We did our best to respect the culture we were representing in this movie. No, Jeff Barnaby's like, nah, son, I got this. I know this. This is my story of my people. Yeah, it's fictional. It's set in a fictional reality, but we got this. And he tells it great. And this is a gripe. Not a gripe. This should be a TV show. Frankly, this is like Netflix, Shudder, where you guys at? Make, like, freaking pilot this thing and make it a TV show already. There's so many layers to this. It needs to be unpacked. There's so much world building that could be done. There's so many political tropes that you can explore. Every single one of these characters has so much depth, so much background, so much struggle. It would be better served as a TV show, my opinion. And even as a book series, you know, I think it should be a great story to tell here. So I don't know if I want to talk about it. Yeah, screw it. I'll talk about it. What I would have loved about this is just like how people like to throw the DNA tests, the 23andMe, Ancestry.com BS, throw that in people's faces. I don't know how often people come up to me and they're like, hey, like they know I'm Navajo, and they're like, hey, Ian, you know I got my DNA, I got my 23andMe test back, and I'm 15% Native, I'm 20% Native, blah, blah, blah. Do you know what tribe I could go to? Do you know where I could go to find out if I'm qualified, if I can be enrolled? All that crap, you know? You know, and I don't know. I would have loved to see, and that's where a TV show would be great, frankly. A TV show would be good to like unpack all of that and throw that stuff back in their face. Because it's like, put your money where your mouth is. Let's see that 15%, whatever DNA crap is. Even though you don't know any connection to Native people, a Native culture, a Native ancestor, you never grew up on the reservation, you don't know anybody that lives the struggle, you never lived the struggle, you've never been oppressed because of the skin color. You know, you've never had to been told to fit into this blood quantum bullshit box before and, you know, walk around and have to see Redskins and Chiefs and Indians and Braves and, like, look at that imagery worn all over and have people tell you, like, oh, what's the big deal? We're honoring you. We're representing you. You should be happy. All that crap, you know? Go around and walk around Halloween and see people play Indian, dress up as Indian, and yeah, anyway. Okay, so this is a real thing. Like, even if we did DNA tests, which we don't do, or at least me and my family, we don't do. People I know, we don't do the DNA tests. Like, it's a joke to us. You know, this is probably like the first time with DNA tests that it's like a privilege to be Native, because I never have to wonder, like, where am I from? I don't have to wonder who my ancestors are. I don't have to wonder, like, where my roots are. Even if we did, we'd probably just sit around and joke about the results. Like, we'd probably get like 80% Native, like 20% white. And we would just like probably just pick on each other, like, oh, that's why you sunburn all easy, or Mr. Green Chili, I don't like green chili, it's too hot, and oh, that's why you're too good for fried bread, or, you know, that's why you don't like mutton. Bottom line, we would never use DNA tests as a measuring stick because we know who we are. And someday, I hope we do that with blood quantum. Frankly, that's where I was going with that. Is the way we look at DNA right now, DNA tests, I hope we get to a point where we look at blood quantum that way, that it's just bullshit. It's just a way for us to be pitting us against each other within our own people. And it works. We do it all the time. Hey, he's half-blood. Hey, he's not Native enough. Oh, he's full, but he doesn't speak his language. Yeah, he's full and he speaks his language, but he lives off the reservation. Or yeah, he does a lot for the community, but, you know, he never came back after he went to school. He thinks he's better than us. Like, that's all from blood quantum. You're assigning value. You're assigning indigeneity to somebody based on some BS like scale that the government came up with. So, last thing before I go. We are just coming up on an hour. I don't want to hit an hour. Would I show this to my son? I would love to show this to my son. I would hope that he doesn't see or doesn't know that she's eating Lysol, Kyle Gordon's penis. But outside of that, hell yeah. If he has to, he'll be like, what's that, son? She found smoked sausages on the floor, son. I think that's what that was. Hey, look. They moved on. Next scene. Because this is a huge win. It's a zombie film, yeah. And he's going to get to a point where I'm sure like these are going to be cool for him. But man, I think it would just be a cool opportunity too. Like the movie ends with Mommy's Little Guy. That would be a cool way for us to tell him like, hey son, we used to hold you and like listen to this song. Because there are some like goated songs in my mind, like going to powwows, native drum groups. That's not a part of my culture. I never went to a powwow until like I was in my 20s. Like it just wasn't a part of me, my culture. But there's some like goated songs that like everybody knows, like Fawn Wood, Mommy's Little Guy, that's up there. Northern Cree, War Cry, Northern Cree, Driving Me Crazy. Like these are just some songs that are like goated that everybody knows, at least in Indian country. So I think it would be cool to like show this to my son and listen to that and hear that and even tell him like, hey, when I first saw this movie, your dad was doing a podcast. Your dad did, saw this movie and just this was his reaction. This is cool, son. And then Mommy's Little Guy, me and your mom would play that song. It's freaking cool when we're holding you and, just reminisce. This movie's great. I don't care. This one, normally I would say, let me know your thoughts. Maybe I missed something. You can't convince me this movie's bad. This just hit all of the right nerd points for me in my love for film, my love for zombies. But, and there's plot holes, there's stuff, there's the acting, at times, whatever. But this just, man, I feel like this movie was made for me. When I watch this, I'm just like, this movie was made for me. I love it. It hits everything that I want, that I need. Anyway. Okay, everybody. Thanks a lot. So, what I would like for you all to do, Instagram's really blowing up. Instagram's doing a great job right now. I appreciate all the love, all the support. Reach out. If you want me to do a movie, you want me to talk about something, don't be shy. Let me know. People. We're really picking up some steam. I love where this is going, and I can't wait to see where we take this show. All right, y'all. Have a good one.